Now, home group members can unmute.
Thanks, David. Hello, my name's Sarah and I'm an alcoholic. Welcome to the Shivering Speakers meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. This meeting is held every Tuesday at the same time. The Shivering Denizens hold 4 meetings a day, 7 days a week. Details of these will be put into the chat. The format of this meeting is we have a main speaker who will share their experience, strength and hope for up to 50 minutes. In the event that there is time remaining at the end of the meeting, we will have sharing by raised hands. Now, to get our meeting started, can we have a moment of silence as we think about the still suffering alcoholic here, there and everywhere? Thank you. The AA preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And now I have asked Jackie to read the first 2 paragraphs from page 151 of A Vision for You.
Thank you, Sarah. My name is Jackie. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Jackie.
Chapter 11, A Vision for You. For most normal folks, drinking means conviviality, companionship and colourful imagination. It means release from care, boredom and worry. It is joyous intimacy with friends and a feeling that life is good. But not so with us in those last days of heavy drinking. The old pleasures were gone. They were but memories. Never could we recapture the great moments of the past. There was an insistent yearning to enjoy life as we once did, and a heartbreaking obsession that some new miracle of control would enable us to do it. There was always one more attempt and one more failure. The less people tolerated us, the more we withdrew from society, from life itself, as we became subjects of King Alcohol, shivering denizens of his mad realm. The chilling vapour that is loneliness settled down. It thickened, ever becoming blacker. Some of us sought out sordid places, hoping to find understanding, companionship and approval. Momentarily we did. Then would come oblivion and the awful awakening to face the hideous 4 horsemen: terror, bewilderment, frustration, despair. Unhappy drinkers who read this page will understand.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you, Jackie. So now it gives me great pleasure to introduce our guest speaker today, who's Ken from Pleasanton in California. We've had a brief part of Ken's story. He came to speak for us on steps. He called me a stalker because I tracked him down after I'd heard that he was an amazing share. And, you know, it's one of the reasons that we started this meeting. We wanted to hear fantastic speakers like Ken speak for the most of the meeting. So it's over to you for as long as you want, up to the hour, Ken. Looking forward to hearing you. Thank you.
Greetings. My name is Ken and I'm an alcoholic.
Hi.
I'm looking at myself on the screen there and I look awful red, and I know it's not your camera, but I don't know what it is. Anyways, my name is Ken. I'm an alcoholic, and it's an honor and a privilege to be here. Thank you for asking me to share, Sarah. It certainly is a privilege to do this kind of service, and I'd like to believe that we all have a purpose in this life. And one of the things that I've heard said about this is that if our biggest mistake can be something that may save another person's life, and certainly I will unfold this conversation and we'll see how that goes. So my story begins with me in my early years. The family that I grew up in, as far as, if you shook my family tree, the bottles would fall out of it. I am from a family of alcoholics. The way that my family drank, as I best remember it, was certainly alcoholic. They drank for the effect. And the idea is that you got good and drunk. And so when my opportunities started to come around to drink and to use, that was the idea that I had, is that you wanted to get nice and slobbery drunk and make a fool of yourself. And so when I started to drink, I drank for exactly that kind of behavior and that effect to my life. And very quickly, as I started using, I began to become very violent, very erratic in my behavior. I was a juvenile delinquent, and I started to steal cars because I didn't want to walk around drunk on the street when I was 14 years old and have the police pick me up. So the idea was I'd steal a car and get home with that. Only problem was that when you're drunk and you're driving a car at the age of 14, you don't do too good on the street. And people, I got arrested quite a few times and as a result for stealing the cars as well. My disease progressed pretty quickly. And I can say by the age of 16 and 17, I had spent a good share of time in juvenile detention centers and in boys camps. And they'd finally gotten to the point where they were either going to send me up to live with my father in Washington, or they're going to send me to a more extended stay at a juvenile detention center. And I don't know for whatever reason, they decided to send me up to live with my father. And going up to live with my dad in Washington State, what I found out was that he liked to party too. And so, first thing we did when we sat down after I got off the plane was we rolled up a joint and we smoked it together, and we started to drink together as well. The only thing was, and he was inviting me to his so-called grown-up parties and stuff like that. But very quickly, he realized what a mistake that was, because my father is not an alcoholic, or at least as best I could see it, he wasn't. And and he was trying to instruct me on proper drinking, and he was telling me, you drink just enough to get a good buzz going on, and then after that, about every hour, you can drink about an ounce of alcohol, and you can keep that buzz moving along. And I looked at him like he was absolutely out of his mind. He just, that idea of that way of drinking just didn't make any sense to me at all. The whole idea behind getting drunk for me was to get as intoxicated as I could possibly get, and just go completely overboard. I was a blackout drinker many times in places. I don't remember the things that I did and the behaviors, but I do remember a whole lot of criminal behavior going on there. Stealing cars. A friend of mine and I, we stole a car at the age of 14, took it down to Southern California or San Diego, where we broke into his grandfather's house and we stole an arsenal of guns. And we were driving around, all points bulletin out on us, armed and dangerous at 14 years of age. And so, I just kind of developed this reputation for wild and crazy behavior. And, by the time I was 19 years old, I'd been in and out of various jails for various things. Drunk in public was pretty frequent. Assaults on other people were other things. But finally, at the age of 19, I just really fell off, and I took somebody's life. And there's nothing about it that it's great. There's nothing glorified about that situation there. It was ugly and it was bad. And I remember after I did that, next night I stood on a freeway overpass, and I'd looked at my life and I had seen that I'd finally done one thing that I didn't think I could possibly do, and I really didn't think that I had anything left to live for. I had lost any kind of respect or out of my family. I was vagrant. I was wandering the streets, and I was hitchhiking around the country. I had no purpose, no meaning, and no direction. And I figured this world would be just much better off without me. So I don't know what it was. Well, I'll say what it was there was this small whisper in my heart from a God now of my understanding. And what he did was he told me, he says, go down and turn yourself in. And so I did. I turned around and I walked off that freeway overpass, and I walked down there, and I turned myself in for something that, according to the prosecuting district attorney, I would have never been caught for. And so shortly after that, 6 months later, I wound up in the California prison system, serving a life term, 7 to life. And and the thing that thing that I can tell you is that I'm coming in, I still had ideas of drinking, still had ideas that I could do things, but I was also realizing that this was it. This was the life that I now had, if I didn't do something. And the thing that that having a life sentence in the state of California, you have two of them, life with parole and life without. I had the life with parole. And so they were telling me you could have an opportunity and then you could have a chance at another life. But I didn't know how, to do this kind of stuff. But I had a pretty good head on my shoulders. And when I wasn't completely getting loaded every minute of the day, I could do some pretty quick stuff. And my education and stuff, as soon as I got sober without, didn't drink, I'm not sober yet. When I wasn't using and abusing alcohol and substances, I was pretty sharp on things. I quickly started getting a good education while I was in there. And I was studying electronics and stuff like that. I started studying electronics and I was fixing televisions when they had vacuum tubes in them. So, and if you don't know what a vacuum tube is, you might want to ask your grandparents about that. And so, I was doing those things, but very quickly started coming up on this was the using and abusing. The thing that I can tell you about my drinking inside the prison is that, I remember vividly this one point, and I was watching a bunch of guys. They were standing down the hallway, and they all had big cups in their hands, and I knew what was in those cups, and I walked down there just to check it out. One of the guys handed me his cup of alcohol. This is prison wine. It's called Pruno, and I took a big gulp of this, and I can tell you is that this guy, he made good prison wine. It really had a good flavor. It had a really good kick to it. And it immediately welled up in me that compulsion to drink. And I thought to myself, yeah, I want to get good and smashed. And I hadn't been drunk since the night of the crime on this situation here. So it'd been a good period of time since my last drink. Now I'd smoked plenty of pot, but I hadn't drank. But as quick as that compulsion to drink came up, there was also this moment of clarity that came over me as well. And it said to me, if you drink while you're in prison, you're either going to wind up dead or on death row. And my options had pretty much ran out at that point. And that was the last drink that I ever took. But I smoked plenty of pot. And so when I finally got around to going in front of the parole board, they have the initial recommendation hearing after your first year in prison. And they told me, he says, you're doing everything you're supposed to be doing except one thing. And I says, AA? And they says, yes. He says, well, I don't think it's for me. And he says, well, give it a year and, and then you can quit if you don't want to. So I made this conscious decision when I went into the meetings that I would give it a try. And I would just really I really would give it an honest try. And I would say to I would open my mind up and I would, and I would take a look at things. And a good quote about this is that, I had nothing left to live for. And I wanted to change the person I was, but I didn't think that there was anything under the sun that would really make me into a different person. I was lost in this situation, my circumstances. But I went into the meeting and I went into this particular room. And we have in California, they're called hospitals and institutions. They bring the meetings into the prison systems in California, and H&I is what they stand. And there's various those things, and certainly they're across the world now. And so I heard a message out of them that was believable. And it was believable on many fronts. It was like I could identify with them, even if there was a home, if there was a home mother, if somebody who was a housewife, she was coming in to tell a story about sobriety and stuff like that. It made sense to me. It made me think that, yeah, I could do this too. They were welcoming, they were caring, they wanted me to do good with my life, and they wanted me to have a good life. And so I was very, very, encouraged by them and very hopeful with them. And that they gave me this belief that I could have what they had. And so the neat thing about H&I back in when I was first in prison back in 1970, it was 1979, 1980. They could come in and visit after they had got finished with, their meeting the night before. So I was seeing a lot of them even inside of in the visiting room. And they were telling me a lot about this program, and they were doing a whole lot of good mentoring of me outside of the meetings themselves. And I grabbed a hold of the materials. I grabbed a hold of the big book, the 12 and 12. I grabbed a hold of As Bill Sees It, Living Sober. I grabbed all those materials and I started to read them over. And the nice thing about prison life, of course, is that you get a lot of opportunity to spend reading if that's what you want to do. And so I did do a whole lot of reading of the materials and stuff. And I kept focused on that. And it gave me insights into the program. It gave me understanding. And I made the meetings, and I started to become of service inside of the prisons. And I was going and getting the coffee out of the kitchen and the cookies. They were giving us cookies too. And we would bring them over to the meetings, and some of the guys would show up just for the cookies, and some of the guys just for the coffee, and most of them for the cookies and coffee. But we were talking sobriety in there. And we're telling these people that there was a different way to live. And I met a number of people. I met one guy in particular who brought meetings in after he got out and I was still in, and he was talking about the same group that I was a part of, and bringing it. He was coming back in with H&I then, and so I was really doing that. And I started to attend therapy programs too. We talk about in this program about outside issues. And certainly, to those that and myself included, who needed something more than just sobriety, because as a kid, as a small kid, my life was very traumatized. I don't wish what happened to me on anybody. It was very ugly, and it was very, very difficult for me, and it brought about a lot of guilt and shame and confusion. And so I wholeheartedly believe in the idea that getting outside help is very, very good, and getting those kinds of help, and take them professionals at their words. And that's the thing about an alcoholic is that when we're under a disease, as I see it, and as I kind of behaved myself at first, I says, we're not very honest with the therapists that we work with. But when I did get sober, and when I started working with this one particular therapist, and he talked to me about a year into my sobriety. And after he says, after you got a year of sobriety, he says, I remember, when I first met you, and this is a man who had 30 years of, prison psychiatry. He was an old school doctor back in the day. And he pretty much knew the kind of characters that were in there. And he says, I remember you, and he says, I didn't think you had a chance. He says, you were hopeless. And, but now you have it. And he says, you got something that's quite completely different. There's this erratic, an unbelievable shift in the person that he saw. And he says, whatever that is, you better keep a hold of it. In the book, in the material talks about us, and it's like, when we finally grab a hold of what sobriety really represents, there can be these miraculous shifts in our behavior from where we once were to where we are. And it only takes a few months for us to kind of shift in that direction. And that is the miracle of this program, as far as I'm concerned. And it was given to me, I believe, by the grace of God. The other thing that I did when I first started going to these meetings is that I was having to get the materials out of this one area that they were being stored at. And and I quickly found out they were having a Bible studies in there. And I found a faith through that, and I found a belief in God of my understanding. And so that certainly was also a big part of my life back then. And I was doing both of those, and I was applying myself in those levels. And I was doing the work, and I was keeping focused on the right things. And the other thing I wasn't keeping focused on was the wrong things. We talk about in this program about sticking with winners. And we go with the winners because those are the ones who are doing it the way that this has been taught. And it's like, I'm not coming in here to tell you anything new. I'm coming in here to tell you what was told to me to begin with. And I'm passing on what was passed on to me. And that's the message of good hope and good sobriety. And for the newcomers in this room right now, I definitely want to talk to you, and I want to say, keep coming back and talk about the fact that my sobriety, even after having 40 years clean and sober, I have to do it one day at a time, and I have to do it just like a newcomer. All of it is the same for me as it is for you. I have to apply myself. No matter how far down the road that I get on this thing, there's a ditch on both sides of my life. And if I either go to the right or if I go to the left, my sobriety can really get thrown in a curve and go down deep. And I also believe that that I suffer from a progressive disease. This disease that I've got and I'm suffering with, it never gets better. It only gets worse, even if I'm not drinking and using. And so if I was to start picking up the bottle here and now, I would quickly be as if I'd never stopped in a short order. And I don't want to think about that. And I don't want to be that person. I want to be the person that God has shown me I can be and who I found out in my life and the life that I've had, and so, I tried to be of service while I was in there, and I tried to do all the right things. I applied myself in many ways as far as education goes. I studied electronics, as I said. I was an electronics technician. I became a computer operator. I became a computer draftsman. I really just had a lot of opportunities in there for study and stuff like that, and I really enjoyed them. And so, I kept on going down this road. And I used what I could while I was there. We didn't have necessarily the opportunities for sponsorship, and so I had to at places and times, use other elements of the world that I was in for those kinds of things. But I always had the big book. I always had the 12 and 12. I always had those materials that I read diligently and daily to keep me fresh in what this program is about, and to keep reminding myself of what it meant to be a sober member of this program. And I continue to have these friendships, and the meetings were essential to me. But just attending the meetings in themselves, I don't think was going to be enough for me either. I didn't just want to go into a meeting and just sit there for an hour and then come out and say, okay, I got my issue in. It's kind of the analogy that I'd like to put about that is like just attending a meeting is, and just being in the room of the Alcoholics Anonymous is no different than trying to sit inside of a garage and thinking that eventually I'll turn into a car, because it's not going to work. I have to apply myself. I have to really use what this program is about. And that's in just about anything in life. And so, I'm moving on in what I did and what I was about. I kept studying, I kept reading, I kept working the program, I kept doing the things that I was responsible and accountable for. And as I went along on these things, certainly good things came into my life in spite of the fact that I was serving, quite a bit of time. And eventually in 1993, they transferred me over to San Quentin. And for those of you who don't know, San Quentin is where AA meetings first began inside of the prison systems. And so, it was kind of an honor to be there. It was kind of great to have that kind of history about me and everything. And I really, I kept applying myself, and the reputation that San Quentin has wasn't quite where I was at. It was a little bit more, they had shifted a lot of people, and they had built a number of prisons by that time, by the way. And so, it looked like that I was going to be spending the rest of my life in prison. And I had, they had at one point given me a parole date, and then they had taken away everybody in the prison system's parole dates, all the lifers. And so I was kind of stuck in this big group of guys. And after I'd done a whole lot of legal work, which taught me how to write pretty good, I realized that this was not going to work. And so I was stuck. And so I started focusing on what I could do while I was in there. And I started writing. And I found out that I was pretty good at it. And I found out that I loved the process. I loved all the elements of it. And for those of you who have sponsors who are, how should I say this, nagging you about writing and suggesting to you that you journal, I wholeheartely believe in that process. I think that it's fantastic for your own way of thinking. I define it, my writing as writing untangles my thoughts. If I put my thoughts down on a piece of paper and I can see them outside of myself, they give me a different perspective on what I'm looking at. And it really tells me, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I'm about. And so I really give it a thumbs up. And I think that if you haven't tried journaling, it wouldn't hurt to give it a shot. And if your sponsor is telling you to do it, I really think you ought to. And life, just continued to work on that level. I wrote my first novel back in 1999, and that sucker almost got published. It was just like it was at the last step before that the publisher said it's a go. And so I figured, oh, no problem. So I'll just knock out my next novel. That one will definitely make it. And I found out after I put the hard work into write the novel, which didn't hurt me in any case, that writing is very difficult, and especially to get published. But I kept it up, and I found a very good gift in it. And also, I was working as a clerk, and I was working for staff. And one of the persons that I worked for was a associate. She was first a captain. Her name was Jeannie Woodford. And she went on to become the warden of San Quentin, and also eventually she became the director of corrections. And she also became one of the Class A directors of the Alcoholics Anonymous. She was on the board of directors for the International Alcoholics Anonymous program. And I always get that description wrong, but she was on the board of directors, and she's one of I think we have 5 non-AA alcoholic members of the world of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I got to run across her when I got out. I had the privilege of introducing her at one of the conferences that we had over here in California. And it was really an honor to do that. And it was very weird because I was on parole and she gave me a big hug. So, so being hugged by a warden is just quite unusual, to say the least. But I kept on pressing my life forward, kept doing the things that I was supposed to be doing, learning the things that I was, applying myself in various ways. I got a college degree while I was at San Quentin. San Quentin has a college program that it's completely funded by nonprofit purposes, no taxpayer money. All those teachers that come in there, they're all volunteer, and they bring in a fantastic program of education into that prison as well. And we have a good system going on there. There's a lot of self-help at San Quentin that's outside of the parameters of AA. But I also did many of these programs that I was a part of while I was there. When you take a look at them, and you can see all the elements of Alcoholics Anonymous that are intertwined in most of what's going on there, even if it doesn't necessarily deal directly with the program or with alcoholism and addiction itself. But they have a whole lot of things going on in there now. They also have Al-Anon at San Quentin. They certainly have a very large NA program there, and it's very involved. And the other thing that I did while I was there is I was approached because of my writing to open up and restart the San Quentin newspaper. It had been out of print for over 20 years, and the warden picked me to become the first editor-in-chief as it opened back up. And that was a privilege, and definitely. But it also took me from the position where I used to be this clerk who worked for the administration into pretty much of an adversarial kind of position. And now I was working for all the guys inside of the system. And it certainly put me in a position where when it came to certain articles that needed to be written in the paper, I took it upon myself to make sure that they got published. And I'll say the least, it made my life a little bit dicey, a little bit difficult, because we were living in a world, in a place that had a lot. It was very mentality. It was very tough on crime, and they weren't happy with what was written there. But I have no regrets on that, and certainly I believe that it was what I was meant to be there. Because what the program taught me more than anything else is that I am responsible, and I am accountable, not so much to those around me, but certainly I want to be, but to my God and to who I believe He would have me to be. And the more that I can do that, and the more that I can be accountable and responsible and mature in my behavior, the motto I've always had is if I do the right thing, I get the right results. And that doesn't mean that I'm exempt from difficulties and struggles, because I can tell you is that my life inside of the prison system and places and situations there, it was very difficult. all the way back in 1993. I remember, having to deal with the fact that my brother was murdered and what that resulted in. I had a mom who was lost in her disease even before that. And when after my brother was killed, I watched her go down the tube very quickly and die. And I remember my father coming to visit me after my brother's funeral. And I had to talk him off the cliff because he wanted to go out there and find the people who did it. And I told him, I says, I don't want you to be my cellmate. And he had the ability, he was a Green Beret. And so he knew what to do if he so sought to do it. So, trying to be the person of responsibility and accountability was what I saw, what brought me the best satisfaction. And certainly the service that I continued on inside and outside of the rooms of AA, inside and outside of the program. The meetings were great. We would talk about Jeannie Woodford. She took, when she became the warden, we had 1 meeting a week. And after that, we had 5 meetings a week. And so our meetings started increasing, and we really had a great sport, AA program going on in there. And H&I was fantastic in there. And I still am connected with a number of those people whom I met while I was there at San Quentin. And so, I continued to write. I got pretty sick at one point, almost died of an illness. And I stepped away from the newspaper, but I kept on my own personal writing. I won a couple of national contests in prison writing. And then also I got picked up by a certain author by the name of Joyce Carol Oates. And she selected one of my stories for publication in a collection of prison stories. And that was quite a big honor too. And so I, things started changing, and this idea that, well, maybe tough on crime isn't necessarily the right way to go, and politics have their ebbs and flows, and then it started changing around. And pretty soon they started releasing people, and pretty soon it looked like I was going to go home too. And so I finally went in front of the parole board in 2017, and on August 20th of 2017, I walked out the door a free man. And I can tell you is that the world that I walked out to was not the one I came in from. And it was very different. And it had a lot of differences about it. Certainly one of them was these things right here. It's like I had not, there was a lot of them inside of the prisons, but I had not touched them myself because they were contraband. And, but I had certainly, I had prepared myself well, and I was pretty tech savvy. So I quickly got to, understanding those things, and they certainly are amazing tools. And I really enjoy the opportunities, and they made connecting with this world pretty neat and pretty fun. And I walked out, and I paroled down to Oakland, California. And the first thing that happened to me 2 weeks out the door was I broke 2 bones in my foot, so I couldn't work. And that was kind of good news, because I had a lot of time to go to AA meetings, and I had a lot of volunteers to pick me up at the rehab, the reentry program that I was at, to take me to meetings all over the area. And so I was going to meetings, and I would go to meetings down in one section of Oakland, and you could, you ask, oh, well, how many people have done time in prison? And about half the room would raise their hands, and so then I go over to another area of Oakland, same city, and it's like, I said, well, how many people in here have PhDs and doctorate degrees? And about half the room would raise their hands. And, that's just how diverse this program is, and how many different, people that are part of this. And we all have this one common thread to us, is that we suffer from a disease that can kill us. And if we don't stick together, and if we don't work this out, and we don't cooperate, and we don't do the things that this program has taught us to do, and they're all in the 12 traditions, the 12 steps are for keeping ourselves from killing ourselves. The 12 traditions are from keeping us from killing each other. And certainly we are a very diverse group. And it's certainly now seen very much so through Zoom, as far as I can tell too. And so I was loving the meetings. My home group is called Men's Single Topic. It meets on Tuesday nights. It's meeting tonight at 8 o'clock at night. And, if you want to go out, all of you are welcome, even though I know it's going to be pretty late or pretty early in the morning for you. But, and I love the meeting. I love the guys. They're very, very caring, and we have a good camaraderie. And we have a good accountability. And you're always asking about me. If I don't make it to a meeting, they're immediately asking me where you've been, what's going on with you. And that's the gift of a home group, guys. If the home group means that somebody is there to hold me to the grindstone and say to me, you need to be here. You need to be a part of this. And this is what this program has taught me: is responsibility and accountability, and being somebody that can be counted on. I have a sponsor now, and he knows I'm his sponsee. I have sponsees, and they know I'm their sponsor, and I call them on their carpet for their crap. I'm not necessarily the easiest sponsor to be around, actually, because it's like one of those things about prison life is that you kind of read BS very quickly, and it's like I have a means of making people very uncomfortable when I'm calling them on that. So whether some of them have bailed on me, and and that's okay. Maybe I hope they find somebody that works with them. But I don't compromise on my what I believe in, and I definitely believe that this is a deadly disease. And so when I'm dealing with a sponsee, I'm dealing with somebody who could be killed by what we're working on. So coming out, and after I'd been out about 3 months, I finally had to get my first job. And so I went to this place, and it was a machine shop, and my job was for 8 hours a day to stand and file metal off of metal. And after about 2 weeks of that, my hands started to swell up on me. And so I had to go to my boss and say, I quit. I can't do this. I'm just physically not able to. And, I'm 59 years old at that point. And so my second job, I went into this warehouse, for auto parts warehouse. And the guy says, get on that forklift over there and start driving it. So I got on the forklift and I started driving it. And 2 weeks later, they hand me my check and says, you're fired. You can't drive a forklift. And I looked at him and said, well, I never said I could. And so that got a good laugh at my home group. And I was like, I was upset at the moment when they fired me. But, when I look back on it, I says, so what? It's like, so, my home group got a good laugh. And right after the meeting was over, I had a guy walking up to me. He says, hey, I'm vice president of a company. I run, it's 150 people in this business that I work at and that I'm responsible for, and I'm hiring you. And I said, oh, okay. So, he said, I've been to prison. He says, duh, it's like, and so, the next week they call me up to where it's at, where the business was at. We go to lunch, and he's, the vice president slides in next to me, and then sitting and sliding in across from us was the owner of the business. And he says, I looked at your resume, and he says, I saw you see 30 years of hard work, on your part. He says, I want to help you too. And that's the gift of this program as well. It's like, you do the right thing, you get the right results. And I just passed 3 years of employment at this particular company. And I have my forklift certification too. So, although I'm more administrative than I am than a forklift driver. They call on me only in a pinch, and a very, very tight pinch too. So, I'm also working part-time, because one of the things that happened when COVID came around was that I was approached to start writing again for the San Quentin newspaper. And so I went part-time at the printing company where I'm at, and I've been writing for the last 6 months for the San Quentin newspaper again, and production, and being supportive of them and what they're doing, and getting paid pretty darn good compared to the 56 a month I was getting while I was in. So I really, really appreciate that too. It's a better paycheck all the way around. And I'm, then I'm coming along here, and I'm just coming up on COVID. And I remember coming into this, and I can tell you is that, you know, and they started talking about lockdowns and stuff like that. And I hate to tell you this, but the idea of this as being a lockdown doesn't quite fit with me. It's like, you know, I know lockdown, and this is not quite it. But I understand where you're all from, and I understand where this was. And more importantly, I saw the anxiety and the worry that so many of the people in the program are having about this, what COVID would do to the meetings and stuff like that. And, you know, and I can tell you is that I believe that this was, very out of a very sad situation, which is what every alcoholic's life is about, has come some amazing things. And certainly out of this sad situation with COVID has come Zoom for the alcoholic. And I can't say that it works for everybody, because I do hear that there's a lot of people that it doesn't work for. But I can say is that I've seen a lot of people on these meetings. I've seen a lot of newcomers, and I've seen as they're being called Zoom babies coming on here, and they're so cute too. I think they're just adorable. But we've found our niche inside of this thing here, and the thing that I can say as I'm convinced about is that AA is surviving, just it was surviving back in World War II when we first got it going. And everybody was worried that everybody was, all these alcoholics were going to go to hell in a minute. It's like, instead of that, what we did was we rallied each other and we got together and we supported each other as the best we could. And that's what we're doing here and now. And it's amazing. It's like, I didn't ever expect to be all over the world and sharing that like I am nowadays, and the things that I'm able to do as far as these meetings go. And it's an honor to be in this part of this world. And it's an honor to be able to talk about what this program has meant to me, because it is an amazing, great, it is a miracle, because I should be dead. And when somebody was talking to me a while back about, how do I know there is a God in this world? And because we were at a meeting, and I says, take a look on the screen there, because there's a bunch of dead people that, people on here that should have been dead. And it's only by the grace of God that they are alive. And that's what this program has given me, is a new life, a new lease on life, a new opportunity. And I'm so grateful for the one that I've been given. I tell the people that I am cash poor, but I am friend rich. But I'm not doing that bad either. I got my first driver's license at the age of 60. So I can't say that everybody appreciated that, but no, I sure loved it. And I just last year I just bought my first brand new car, and I'm kind of getting myself anchored in. And I got off parole last year, and I immediately did some traveling. I've driven from California to New York City, and from New York City back to California during the COVID, in the middle of winter too, and we drove through the ice up there. Then I drove down to visit family down in Tucson, Arizona, where my father used to live, and I visited my father's grave. And I'm reuniting with family and friends. And I can't say that all the family wants to be a part of my life, but I'm also finding that the miracle of the program is that more do than I ever expected. And I've come to have family and friends in and out of the program. I have a great church that I'm a part of. They support me wholeheartedly. They helped me buy my first car, and they're there for me. And if for whatever reason I can't do what I do to support myself, what I'm responsible for, I have a connection of friends around me that will step up in a heartbeat if I need it. But so fear of the future is one of those things that this program has alleviated from me. And I've been given some amazing gifts in this program, and I am grateful for them 100%. And so if somebody else wants to share at this point, they're more than welcome to it. And I'll give you guys a couple of minutes of my time. So you keep coming back. It's a great program. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ken.
Cheers, Ken.
That was
Fantastic.
phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Okay, if you would like to come in and share back with Ken, please raise your hands. Please raise your virtual hands. And we will be giving you, Barbara, if you can give people 2 minutes. Yeah. I see some hands up.
I'll come in just for a quick second. Thanks very much, Sarah. Well, there's no hands raised. And thank you very much for all the home group members doing, all the denizens doing work in the background. And thank you so much, Ken. This is, I think it's the second or the third time I've heard you speak. And the first couple of times it was a pretty 20-minute job, but that was pretty amazing, mate, just to hear that and hear the full story. And I think I'm like everyone else in this meeting is feeling humbled by your story and your commitment to the program. And it's, yeah, and I love what you said about the home group. And I loved, all the messages. It was all there, and it strikes me that you get what when you want something bad enough, you get it. And you wanted the sobriety, and that's certainly what happened for me. I wanted to get well. I was sick of running around and fooling myself and doing all this, just running it. And when I got into AA, I realized it was the best thing that I could have possibly done. And I just was very, very grateful that I've got this fellowship. And like you said, the Zoom phenomena as well. It's just, I would never in a million years been able to hear your story. I doubt ever. We would never have met. And the fact that we're, thousands of miles apart, but I'm hearing your story and I'm engaging emotionally with what you're saying is a miracle. And I'm very, very grateful that you came along. And I'm very grateful for Sarah P for all her diligence and hard work in lining this up. But thanks so much, Ken, for coming along, and I hope we can speak again soon. Cheers.
Thanks, David. John, would you like to come in? Let's see some more raised hands, please.
Yeah, thanks very much. My name's John. I'm an alcoholic. And thanks for your service, Sarah, and everybody else who's involved in keeping the forum going. Very, very grateful for people who put the service into Zoom, because it's all we've got at the minute, and we've got to make the best of it. So thanks very much. And thanks, Ken, for your share. It's hard to identify. I ended up in jail right enough, but not for any great length of time. But the best thing I've ever done was I got into service, and I was a prison sponsor in one of the long-term jails in Scotland. And it's the best thing I've ever done in Alcoholics Anonymous. It was so rewarding. And to see some of the guys coming out and making a life for themselves, it just blows me away. How powerful Alcoholics Anonymous can be. It can reach places where you wouldn't imagine it could reach, So I wish you well, and I'm so glad to be here and sober. Thanks very much for letting me share something. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Lovely
Cheers,
to hear you. Irma, would you like to come on in?
Yes, my name's Irma, and I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic. I'm calling from the United States, San Diego, California, and thank you so much for your experience, strength, and hope. And I loved every single thing you said. Thank you for keeping us sober. And thank you for everyone who put the meetings together. Thank you. And you guys have a blessed day.
Thanks, Irma. Lovely to hear you. Jeannie, come on in.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jeannie, grateful recovering alcoholic.
Hey, Jeannie.
I'm glad to be here. A dear friend invited me here from Scotland, and I needed to come on board. Ken, thank you so much for your story. I'm from Southern California, and I've known a lot of people that have been in San Quentin, but to hear a fellow Alcoholics Anonymous member to come here and listen to your success just blows me away. So I needed to come on board, and thank you so much for it. And thank all of you there in the UK for putting this on. Appreciate it. I wish you much more success, Ken. Thanks. That's all I have.
Thanks, Jeannie. Lovely to hear you. Jules, come on in.
Thank you, Sarah. Gosh, I just love you guys so much, as you know. So you, I was born in Oakland, and if I would have stayed in Oakland, that would have been, where I got recovery, hopefully. But aren't we blessed that we have such strong recovery in the Bay Area? And you know what touched me so much about your speak was the horrific background and life that you had to live, and your calm, peaceful, solution-oriented, positive persona. You provided so much hope, and I just wanted to say it was a pleasure to listen to you today. And Sarah, thank you so much for bringing us such a fabulous speaker today. Thanks for letting me share.
Thanks,
Thank
Jules.
you.
Lovely to hear you. Brittany, would you like to come in, please?
Hi, everybody. Brittany, alcoholic.
Brittany.
Wow, I forget your name that came on before me, but yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking is the life that you lived and the amount of time like you sat in prison and just you embrace this program, and instead of like getting drunk and getting loaded and trying to speed up the time, because that's what we do is try to like drown our feelings, you went the other way. And you made something of yourself and you're using your gifts now and like getting paid for them. That's amazing. A couple of things you said really touched my heart and I can attest to them. And one of them was the family that we build with the people we meet in Alcoholics Anonymous. Like, to me, you guys are not my friends. You are my family. And I know my sponsor has told me this many times, like, as long as I stay sober, I will never need or want anything. I won't ever have to go without, because I have a family that, as long as I'm doing the right thing, so much support all the time. Anyway, thank you guys I know we only have 2 minutes and I usually share for like 20, not really, but it's hard for me to wrap everything up in 2. So I'm going to shut up now, but thank you for your share. It was very, very, very inspiring.
Terrific.
Lovely, Brittany. Margot, come on in.
Hi, I'm Margot, alcoholic. Good to see you again. I just was really blown away that, you didn't really have an opportunity to have a sponsor at times, and that's mind-boggling to me. But I've read, and it says you can do this, just read the book. Given how hazy my mind has been at times, and how, it's just, I don't know, it would be very difficult for me without a sponsor, and because I need that mirror. And I guess in meetings, I get that in meetings and such, but I'm just very blown away that you can do this with a sponsor through time and diving into the book. So, and then also just wanted to comment on the they've always say that if I could shortchange myself, if my idea of what was going to happen, if I worked this program, I would shortchange myself. And that clearly is demonstrated in how it's played out for you, which is a great inspiration. You can become anything and do anything. And you kept saying, do the right thing. And I'm thinking, man, if I was in prison, I would want a cell phone. How could I not get contraband? How could I resist that? Anyway, lovely to hear from you. And it's just so neat because by doing service, I get to meet people and talk to people. And I usually do a phone call ahead of time. And, the time that I've had to chat with you is just one-on-one. It's just a wonderful way that one alcoholic connects to another. And yes, it does feel like family. Thank you. I'm Margot.
Thanks, Margot.
Margot.
Lovely.
Margot.
Alison, come on in.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. I'm Allison, alcoholic. Thank you, Sarah, for getting a wonderful, wonderful speaker. Thank you so much, Ken. Wow, what an inspiration. I did not do all that to get here, but I still belong here. And I too want this program. And that's what I heard. There's a lot of us that need it, and you wanted it, and you did all the work, to get this program and to stay sober. And like was mentioned, I love the literature. for those times that I don't get out, especially during this, this past year. I love the Zoom meetings because I can come and listen to great speakers from all over the world. I need to be reminded over and over. And, I read, X, Y, or Z. And well, I read a daily book, and every year I seem to get a different thing out of the same days that I hear. And so, staying involved, like you have, oh my, your service work, it shows on you, and the experience that you have gained. And I like that as well. I recently took a service commitment, and I'm excited because it's been a little while. But I think that it's so important, in that, yes, I am in charge of what I get out of this program. If I put a little bit in, I get a little bit out of it. So I need to do what I can do to improve my life and get that family that you talked about. I don't know. That's it. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Have a great day.
Cheers, Alison.
Thanks, Alison. Fantastic. Okay, this brings us almost to the end of today's meeting. Thank you for joining us. Remember, there are 4 Shivering Denizens meeting a day, 7 days a week. Please join us again here next week when we have Geraldine T sharing with us from Bedford. Wonderful, wonderful lady. She's my sponsor. We practice tradition 7 at this group, which states that every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions, and ask you to please support AA and contribute to your local general service office or to the Shivering Denizens. Links will be provided in chat, and if you'd like more information, then please ask a home group member after the meeting. A recording of today's speaker will be available. Please see details in chat on how to access this. And for our final reading, I've asked Virginia to read from page XXIV of the 4th edition of the Big Book.
Thank you, Sarah. And thank you, Ken, so much. That was amazing. I'm Virginia, and I'm an alcoholic.
Hey,
While our
Virginia.
literature has preserved the integrity of the AA message, sweeping changes in society as a whole are reflected in new customs and practices within the fellowship. Taking advantage of technological advances, for example, AA members with computers can participate in meetings online, sharing with fellow alcoholics across the country or around the world. In any meeting, anywhere, AA share experience, strength, and hope with each other in order to stay sober and help other alcoholics. Modem to modem or face to face, AA speak the language of the heart in all its power and simplicity.
Thank you, Virginia.
Thanks, Virginia.
Thanks everyone that's helped today. Vanessa, John, David, Jackie. Oh, I think that's everyone. But most of all, the biggest thanks of all to Ken for such a phenomenal meeting, a phenomenal speaker. We've been so blessed to hear you today. And could I ask that you please come back in and take us out with the Serenity prayer, please.
Take a deep breath. God, grant us serenity to accept the things we cannot change, courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Keep coming back, it works.
Works if you would.
Thank you.
Wow.
Ooh, yeah.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank
Cheers.
you. Thanks so much.
Cheers, Ken. Stop recording.